A quick recap of what we've seen so far. We'll have the interviews later, so we'll be able to recap that a little bit then. But rejoined by Mo, fresh off the platform yourself, so thank you for joining us.
No worries at all.
Obviously, we did the preview show on Thursday and spoke a little bit about predictions, what we thought was going to happen, and we've seen some of them unfold, so we can speak about them a bit now. So let's just run through it about some highlights, what we've seen. If we start with the women. To be honest, I think a lot of the situations we expected were the ones that we saw unfold. So Jessie Lee ended up walking away, winning the 47s, which I think was what we expected.
Basically, it was a 165 pull at the end of the day. I think it was amazing. When you've got a deadlift that big in that weight class, you earn your right to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And 52s, we saw Ruth Griggs walk away. Obviously, Leonie Tapman didn't end up lifting in the end, so a little less of a battle than we expected, but Ruth still put up, a huge total.
Yeah, and I know she's been suffering some injuries maybe and trying to get back to a healthy position, but I think it's a really good place to start building going into 2025. Yeah,
and she said, when we interviewed her, that she was just proud of herself for getting here and competing, and she enjoyed it, and I think that's, a huge part of it. Yep. So again, we didn't get the battle that we expected, but I know that she's wishing Leonie well, and so are we, and we'll see them fight, I'm sure, again soon. And 57s, which I think was one of the more anticipated ones, and you know what? It was always going to be close, but I think closer than we thought.
A lot closer. I mean, Adejake gave everyone, I think by second squats, everyone thought, whoa, this is different. And I think one thing I also enjoyed about that weight class, I know Bobby didn't win, but I believe that's the closest Bobby's ever been to beating Joy. And really, Bobby could have done it. Joy is normally used to having that final second pull dictate, and then she's sort of just having fun. But Bobby brought the fight, Adejake brought the fight. This class just keeps on growing. And I think next year, especially once Bobby gets a groove, gets that deadlift locked in, the squats looked easy, bench looked easy. I know she's peaking for Sheffield. But 5 or 6 is a new total. But it might not be 5 or 6 by the time we get to after Sheffield. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal class to watch. And like you said, Bobby was so close behind. And it really did come down to those final deadlifts. Yeah. And Joy didn't have, as much, I think, opportunity and space to have fun with the deadlifts, I think, as she's used to having.
I mean, still 231?
Listen, I'm saying she ended up being able to, but, the pressure was put on her.
Yes, it was.
For sure. Adejake came out really on fire.
Guns blazing.
She is so strong, and we said don't count her out. She is so strong. She's competed for GB countless times, and she showed us why. Obviously, saw that unofficial world record from Bobby and an attempt from Adejake as well.
It's very impressive to also have 2 world record. I mean, really, we got 3 world record attempt holders in that weight class right now in GB. So that's an impressive thing to see. It's unfortunate because it's a Joy era, but if Joy wasn't here, it's a Bobby era. If Bobby wasn't here, it's an Adejake era. So all 3 athletes are phenomenal.
Spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
We had the 63s where we saw a bit of fight between Sabrina Downs and Makeda Vidal.
Yeah.
And that was another great showing.
That was amazing. I thought, I know in the preview I probably said it was a Sabrina show, but Makeda, that squat the final squat was impressive.
Yeah, she looked really, really strong. And again, a similar situation, ended up a lot closer to Sabrina than I think we were expecting. And Sabrina, being a good athlete, always is on guard. But like we said, Makeda's going to come through and keep getting better, and she has continued to do so. So I think that's going to be a head-to-head we'll see for a few years.
Yeah.
So excited to see where that goes. We have the 69s, where we knew it was going to be a bit of an Annie Nelson show, and it was. It's still a really phenomenal class to watch. We saw a bit of a battle for the 3rd place. Yep. Suzanne Daniel, in the end, ended up kind of creating that gap between her and Elspeth. But it was a phenomenal thing to watch.
It was a good battle. Annie Nelson was a bit unlucky on the squats I saw. It's one of those days. It's better to have it now than on the international platform.
Yeah.
So it's just a thing. I know she said the prep wasn't also the best, but I think it's just round off. It's Christmas is around the corner. Get the food in, rest up, and then 2025 we all go out again.
Yeah, exactly. She's got the break now, which I think is well earned. Actually, no, she's competing at Home Nations in 2 weeks.
Oh, shit.
And then she's going to have a break. So, like you said, just in time for Christmas.
Fair enough then.
But yeah, like we said, a phenomenal athlete, a real superstar of the sport right now, and always good to watch, even though she didn't have, the perfect day. She came and she had fun and she did what she needed to do. The 76s we've not seen, so tune in for that later. That's the prime time this evening. 84s, however,
was a Ziana show. I think the first woman in GB to reach 600 kilos, that's a massive achievement. And normally in the 84s, I know Amanda Lawrence, and this is the GB, we're talking about GB right now, right? Amanda's dominant, but to have one athlete in 600 finally, it's impressive.
Yeah.
And she put on a clinic. The deadlift at the end, phenomenal.
Yeah, it was 265.
265.
That is just mammoth.
222.5 or 225
225 squat, yeah.
That's massive.
Like, she really is a phenom, and that's not to discount Melina at all, who's fresh out the juniors.
Melina was also amazing. That was a 555 total.
Yeah, which was Ziana's total from British, I think, either last year or the year before that. So, she's on a similar trajectory and a few years younger. And it really, from what I saw, I was commentating the other platform, but it seemed like she had a lot left in the tank as well.
Yeah.
So really exciting future.
Exciting future, definitely.
So really looking forward to seeing, again, another head-to-head when Erlov comes back as well. It'll be a three-way fight.
We have a three-way fight, yeah.
And that's exciting. Looking similar to the 57s, which is really cool. And we have the 84 plus heading down in 45 minutes.
Yes, so we should have a very exciting squad battle, and I'm excited to watch that.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. So can't review that. It hasn't quite happened yet, but we'll see what happens. So that concludes, the women. Overall, they really put on a great show for us over the last few days.
I think so far we have our best female lifter podium already sorted out. I don't know what you feel like. I believe we have Joy, Bobby, and Ziana in third now, don't we?
I believe that to be the case, and usually the 84 plus and the 76s have to work a little bit harder because of how the GL points work out. But I know that we've got some heavy hitters coming in the 84 plus, and of course the 76s as well. But they'll have to do a big job to do it, which I think they will. We'll have to see. But yeah, the best lifters are looking like they will be those 57s and Ziana. But any particular highlights from the women's for you this week so far?
I think it was Joy's deadlift.
Yeah.
Because I am a Joy fan.
I think we all are, yeah.
I saw that deadlift and I thought, maybe not today. But that fight was impressive. The lockout was impressive. I mean, we famously say don't doubt a Nelson. Never doubt Joy's deadlift. So I think that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it was slow, but she's so reliable, with being able to pull through those, and she can grind really all three lifts, which is super impressive. Gosh, I think for me that the 57s was a real highlight in general. I think the squat session in that as well with Adejoke and Bobby is worth mentioning as well. But we were treated all week to some phenomenal lifting, and to have world class lifters, more than one, and all the weight classes. Just
it's impressive.
Shows where we are.
And I think that's one thing to highlight. We're starting to get world class or even world record holder lifters across multiple weight classes. So really, you could come to nationals, come third, come fourth, but on the international stage, you would be vying for a medal.
Yeah.
And I think that's impressive.
Yeah, really, really cool to see where the nation is right now. Yeah. And then over to the men who have, held up to the standard that the women set for us as well. With the 59s, we saw Lahiru.
Secure.
Yeah.
It's a clinical execution, really.
Really, really strong day for him. And, it was a bit more of a battle for second and third, but he ended up, running away a little bit with that first by the end of the day. Yeah. And just, like you said, clinical day for him. In the 66s, we saw a much bigger fight.
Yes.
Between Joey and Kibria.
Yeah. It was almost because really when we did the preview, I honestly thought it was a situation between Kibra and Ben.
Yeah.
Sort of trying to vie, and it was going to be who's more consistent versus a deadlifter. I did say the deadlifter would always pull last, and when you've got someone like Ibra, it's hard to bet against that.
Yeah.
But Joey really wedged himself into that battle and was a very dominant presence on the day.
Yeah, really, really strong and had a really consistent day. And as a result, put up a big fight to Kibria. Benedict is so young; he's still a junior, and he put up an amazing total. I mean, his name is going to be in that hat for a while to come. And I think we mentioned that if Kibria was able to get 3 squats in, because he has struggled with depth of 4,
Yes.
he would be dangerous.
It will be dangerous, and he also got 3 benches in, which is not normal.
Yes, yeah, and athletes like that who tend to be a little bit less consistent with their subtotal.
Yeah.
When they do get that subtotal in, they're looking dangerous, like Sanchez was in the 105s, which we'll come to in a little bit. But that was a great fight.
It was a great fight, and I think you've got to give credit to Kibra. He realised the challenge on the day, and he executed. And I think that's the way he deserves his respect as a champion.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a really exciting fight. And I think the 66s here and globally are becoming a lot tighter of a weight class.
Absolutely. I mean, now we've got potentially 3 athletes in the 650 range. We're getting closer and closer to the 10 times bodyweight totals at 66. I know the world stage is the 700, and we've got Kajal is supposedly going to blow everything out of the water very soon. But the talent in the class is starting to grow. So I'm very excited to see where the 66 end up.
Yeah, absolutely. The 74 was a bit of an upset, there. And, I think I did say I had my money on potentially Sam Dew.
And I think I said, if it came down to execution, and I was a betting man, it would be Sam Dew. Because both lifters were more erratic end. It could either go really great or really badly.
Yeah.
And we sort of saw that in the situation. Sam Dew played the race. He was consistent all the way, set up a total, and even Christian was also amazing.
Yes, ended up podiuming, of course. It was a really exciting battle. I unfortunately had to switch over to the primetime session, so didn't get to catch fully the end. So it was at the same time as the 83s. But, I know that Stephen hurt his quad on his second squat, which really hurt him. He couldn't quite put up the total he wanted to, which was a shame because he looked really strong coming in.
Very strong.
And I think, like with the other classes, these aren't people that are going away anytime soon. Sam Dew is Mr. Consistent, and, that day was the day where that's what he needed to do. So I think that's his first time ever becoming British champion as well. So well earned. He's been in the sport for a while now.
Yeah. Congratulations, Sam Dew. That was an amazing performance, and really that's the definition of play your own game.
Yeah.
And run your own race.
Yeah, absolutely. He was not looking forwards or back. He was just looking at the bar. Yeah. And that's what you need to do. We had the 83s, which, of course, had an upset. I think, obviously, the elephant in the room, where that Kunle ended up getting injured. He's safe and he's okay now. We've been in communications with him. But we were expecting, of course, to see, what we thought was a fight between Kunle and Owen.
Turned into a fight between Ty and Owen.
Yeah, and, by the time we got to kind of subtotals, even with Tari missing a couple of his benches and, being in a bit of hot water, he built something up that was really hard for Owen to chase.
Yep. And then the last pull he loaded would have given him a 797.5 kilo total.
Yeah.
So now that we're talking about it, by the time we get to know it next year, I know Owen's not out. He's going to come back. We're wishing Kule a speedy recovery. Everyone's going in his prayers and everything. But we really could be looking at for maybe 5 83s now getting into the 800 kilo total. Bear in mind, we still remember the good old days when 93s were getting into 800. And we're so excited for it. So
it's going to be really exciting. It's so easy to forget because the standard we saw just on the platform this week with, all of those 383s, Ty, Owen, Kunle, was so high that, like you said, we've actually got 5. We've got Durans and Ade, who were there supporting as well. Yeah. They want to see their class do well as well. So a really packed weight class at NGB at the moment, which is exciting.
Yeah.
The 93s, again, like the 76s and the 84 plus, haven't been yet. They will be tonight at prime time at 6 p.m.
Yep.
So we will review that afterwards. But skipping over to the 105s, who we had last night.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we agreed or disagreed in our predictions. I think I did call for Sanchez
To win.
to win.
Okay.
and he just had a phenomenal day. You know, he was 6 for 6 heading into deadlifts, and I know Pape a little bit ill coming into it, didn't have quite the day that reflected the prep that he had.
Yeah, and I think that was where it was. It was going to be a situation where, with somewhat dropping out of the meet, Pape needed to push, and unfortunately his body wasn't in the position to push. So he sort of let Sanchez, and when someone like Sanchez, you're talking about 408.5 kilo. I know he didn't get to the end
On a technicality,
on a technicality, but the strength was there. You have to be guns blazing from the beginning. Right?
Yeah.
And then Pape just wasn't in the position to do that, so Sanchez sort of just ran away with it.
Similar to what we said about Kibria, you know, if he came in and got the squats and went in with a healthy subtotal,
Yeah.
it's a hard horse to chase, you know, and that's tough to kind of come back from, especially where Pape lost about 5 kilos on his squat and a couple kilos on his
At least
bench.
10 on the bench, or maybe 7.5 because he was also feeling ill. So yeah.
Yeah, so it is hard. You know, he pulled for that 370 at the end and just missed it. Sanchez had a bit of controversy in terms of not getting his opener in on deadlift, went up and got it, and then missed his last. So just missed that 900 total, which I know he was chasing from you. So I'm sure you were there, you know, somewhat supporting.
I've said it multiple times. The 105 should be above 900. On the world stage, they're talking about 945.
Yeah.
Now we've got Ashton Ruska talking about 1,000 at 105.
Wow.
So honestly, GB, we can't be 100 kilos behind. So honestly, I'm happy that Sanchez is pushing the boundaries there.
Yeah, and you know what? The 408.5 looked strong. You know, if obviously, and as you say, went in his favor, that means just he's kilos off of the biggest deadlift in IPF history as a 105.
As a 105.
Which is crazy.
It's insane.
But yeah, it was a really good battle. There was also, we had Ash Liston ending up trying to pull for podium and just missed that last pull, meaning CJ
secured it.
Secured
well,
the
I think the
bronze.
battle between Ashton and CJ was also, and you can see how much it meant to CJ.
Yeah.
He celebrated so much on the platform after he got the 220.
Yeah.
But I think both athletes are amazing, and honestly, I'm going to try my best to learn from them when it comes to the bench.
Yeah, you know, both broke the British record, and
Yeah.
Ash obviously walked away with it in the
Yeah.
end. But it was really great. You know,
It
CJ's
was.
probably the smiliest powerlifter in British powerlifting.
The widest smile you'd ever seen. Definitely.
So that was great to see. Then, of course, the 120s, which we had last night. Obviously, you partook in. Again, the elephant in the room, I think worth covering, which was the tough calls on your bench. I know that you probably would agree with a lot of the people watching that, you know, it was unfortunate. I think a lot of people were in your favour. Of course, we can't go against the referees. There's only so much you can do. But, you know, we obviously didn't get to chat afterwards. It did hurt your total. And I think it was... I would say it's unfair. It feels unfair.
It was part of, I think it's what makes this, I think it's what differentiates between a theatrics and a sport. Really, everyone comes in lining up and hoping to perform the best, but then there's so many other external variables that change the outcome on the day, and that's what makes a champion a champion. It's not necessarily, it's who can avoid the most external problems and make sure that their lifting is up to standard, that they're not questioning any way or form. So on my side, the things I need to improve, but also we can't take away from the daddy of Britain. He did give us a whooping, and he put on an absolute clinic. So
Yeah.
I think that was one of the best Tonys we've ever seen in a long time.
Well, yeah, I was chatting to him last night, and he said he thinks it's the first time at a British he's gone 9 for 9 for maybe over 10 years,
Right.
which shows how much pressure you guys were putting on him. And it's good to see him have to work a little bit. We were saying he normally chases that best lifter because it's kind of the next competition he can see. So to have you, Indy, Nonso, all there kind of breathing down his neck,
Yeah.
it was amazing to watch. And, you know, I'm sure you love the sport so much. If you weren't partaking in it, I'm sure you would have loved to watch it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, being back there in the warm-up room, the pressure, everything was intense. Everyone had their own warm-ups and platforms, and Indy was being Indy, just casually dropping memes here and there. But the squat battle at the beginning was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we had two 345 attempts and 2 350 attempts. It was so close. It was sort of the bench. Tony did what Tony does. He pulled away from the pack. We're all still learning how to bench, unfortunately. But I think it was it was lovely to be part of that battle, and it also shows that there's so much potential in the weight class.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting up there. Everyone's breathing out Tony's neck. Still was an M1 lifter. He's teaching us how to do it. But I think the weight class itself, there were other people in fourth position. I mean, I know Curtis was a bit unlucky with the deadlift
Yeah.
due to the rep in his hands, but he also looked great. We had Mars. We had the junior lifter, Tim.
Yeah, Timmy looked great.
Timmy looked great. All attempts looked like RP7.
Yeah.
So we've got Nonso, so looked amazing, 345 squat, unlucky on the bench and the deadlift. But again, we just need to learn how to bench. So the weight
Which is
class
crazy
itself
because
is
you guys are
great.
benching so much. It's just, it's hard not to compare yourself to Tony when you're doing that. But yeah, Nonso, obviously we had two ends of the spectrum, a 19-year-old, a new
And a
M1.
41, yeah.
It's it was phenomenal to watch. I think, it was one of the few weight classes, and we said this going in, that it was anybody's game, and to put pressure on a 2 times world champion, ex-Sheffield athlete like yourself, to have to go 9 for 9 to win nationals,
Yeah.
it just shows that give all of you another year, especially you and Nonso who are newer to the weight class, Indy who's continuously progressing, Tony can't stop his progress.
It's basically age. It's an age battle at this point. But I think one thing that's very wonderful, and one thing I did love about competing was you had Nonso, 19 years old, phenomenal athlete,
Yeah.
and you had Tony, 41, still in the sport. So it doesn't matter your age. It's sort of, as long as you continue on your own powerlifting path, you might be a Nonso, amazing phenomenal 19, 20, or you're probably going to be a Stony, where it's going to take you a good 20 years to get to the top level of the sport. But as long as you enjoy it, you can still get there.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice, message to take from that, because, we see that endurance as well, who wasn't, he's world champion now. He wasn't when he started. He was nowhere near when he started. I think he said he came 7th or something in Texas a few years ago.
Oh yeah, that was in Killeen. Yeah.
So, he's worked his way up, and not so, like you said, a phenom who kind of came in strong. He came in, started competing internationally at 16 as a 105. So it's important, I think, for people to take home that, yes, there are people who are going to be an absolute natural and then push from there, but it doesn't mean that you can't start, in a lower place and work your way up to world champion or British champion.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was an amazing battle to see. The 120 pluses, similarly, we haven't seen yet. That will be in 20 minutes time. So we're looking forward to that. But overall, was there a highlight for you within the men's side of the week that you can think of?
Oh, on the men's side of the week so far, I think Samdu's performance was definitely noteworthy. There was a lot of pressure, and honestly, if you were looking at social media, he would have probably gotten very distracted, but he came with a game plan, executed on the day, and performed to standard. And then afterwards would have to be, I know the 93s would probably be very exciting, and the 120 pluses. I think those two would be massive performances, but I think Tony's execution on the day was phenomenal. And that was just a 9 for 9 masterclass, really.
Yeah, I've got to say, I honestly couldn't pick between, you 120s yesterday. I just think the session itself was a highlight.
Yeah.
If I could watch that class over and over again, I would. I would happily watch that at Worlds. And I think it is all world standards, what you guys put up. So it's really, really cool. And Samju did amazingly well, super consistent. He actually put his meet recap up today, and he said on it a few weeks ago he was weighing 84 kilos after a holiday. So did well to come back down, and win the 74s, 10 kilos lighter instead of competing with the women yesterday in the 84s.
That would have been interesting.
But no, he did phenomenally well. It's by far the best British we've had.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really exciting next year, much smaller. But I just think that puts the heat on everyone who is going to be competing.
And I think really to be a 14, that's what the weight class is going to cap that, to be a top 14 level lifter and to win, you're almost talking about a mini Sheffield in every single weight class. I think the talent is there, people improving consistently on a monthly basis. The sport is growing both at a regional and national level, so exciting future, and I'm very excited to see what happens.
Yeah, as am I. So thank you so much for joining us all week. Mo, thank you for coming and joining me again. We have still the 76s and 93s tonight. Very shortly, we'll be tuning into the 84 plus and the 120 plus, where we will see a lot of metal shifted. So please do join us there.